For bringing in Dr. Lauren Wright, a scholar and lecturer in politics and public affairs at Princeton University. Dr. Wright, good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So you heard that former Trump legal advisor there saying that she thinks Tim Scott is going to be the choice for Trump. Is that who you see filling out the ticket?
I don't know, but Tim Scott would be an excellent choice. I'm just not sure if he will be the ultimate choice. It's very hard to tell. That would be a very smart move on Trump's part. Tim Scott has a really positive message. He has a lot more message discipline than Trump does, and it's always good to have someone to balance you out personality-wise. If Trump could have someone like Nikki Haley or a moderate to bring along centrists, that would be great. I do not think he's going to do that. I think the risk for Trump is that he probably wants to pick someone in the mirror image of himself. He wants to pick someone that reminds him of himself. But what he really needs is balance on the ticket and to be able to send the message to a much broader, more moderate audience.
Tell me about Nikki Haley. I mean, I've heard of people talking about, oh, could this meeting with Ron DeSantis recently mean anything? I haven't really heard much about whether Nikki Haley could be a possibility. Why isn't she a possibility in your eyes?
It's just too personal at this point. And that's one of Trump's weaknesses, frankly, is he has a hard time stepping away from the campaign trail if someone's personally attacked him. Now, that's very understandable, but it's a different persona than someone like Joe Biden, for instance, who chose Kamala Harris even after she went after him very directly on the campaign trail in a way that even the first lady didn't like very much, according to reporting at the time. So it's good to bring along the moderates, but I don't ultimately think it will be Nikki Haley.
Let's talk about South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. She was considered among the potential VP picks. We heard a lot of buzz about her, but then that story comes out by her own hand about killing that 14-month-old dog in a gravel pit, going on to kill a goat quite slowly after that. It is triggering backlash from both parties. This week, we see her posting on X. She's trying to clarify. She gave an interview. She's trying to reframe. Is it working? And does she have any chance at VP now?
Nope, it's over. And the reason is, and I've written about this in the past, is that 80% of Americans have a pet or have had a pet, and most of those are cats and dogs. And a lot of people are alienated by this, not to mention that former President Trump's daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, is a huge advocate for dogs and for pets and rescue animals. And so he has people in his own family that my best guess would be are advising him against this. You know, just because conservatives want to send this message of we make tough decisions, killing a puppy is not one of those decisions that people see as in that vein of part of working farm life.
And Dr. Wright, can I ask, we're almost out of time,
but a lot of people out, sure.
Sure. I mean, what happened here? Was there not a single person who read, an editor, someone on her team who read this and said, this story is not going to land the way you think it is?
Well, that's not an editor's job. I mean, frankly, an editor's job and, you know, a publisher's job is to sell as many books as possible. And it's a salacious story, and it did get a lot of attention, and it may actually end up selling more books in the end. But that's not the same goal as getting someone a spot on a presidential campaign. Those are two completely different things. And so I think, if anything, it really shows the weaknesses of Noem as a politician. It's a bad judgment call. I mean, it's good that the information is out there, but the fact that she wrote it and she thought it would be a positive with the base, I think, was a giant misread.
Okay. Dr. Lauren Wright, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.